next question comes from Ron, and he wants to know what the best method for inflating an SMB is.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah. You regretted asking that question.
Why did you go on and on and on and on?
Which one about we do now?
Brilliant. Could we not have just filmed you when you were talking to Ron? Then I wouldn't have to be here.
So the main method that most people get taught, certainly this is how we used to always teach them, especially overseas, is basically the bottom's open and it sometimes closes with magnets, depends on the model, and you just shove a regulator in, press your purge button, fills it up with air, and away it goes.
And away.
And away. Technically, there's nothing wrong with that. It works. I personally think there's issues with that.
Yeah.
I think you waste a lot more air because you're just free flowing your regulator, basically.
I don't like how it's stuck in the bottom of the SMB with a loop in the string and the.
I think it adds more. It takes up hands. So I think there is some issues with that, and also, like you say, I definitely think there's more of an entanglement risk with it. So the main reason for not using that in the UK is because of free flow risk.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start getting a high flow of air,
like your reg's upside down, you're pushing the button, it's kicking out. And
it's kicking out lots of air, you get the cooling effect, so you're going to get ice crystals formed. And there is a high risk of free flow. Yes, you might have never had it happen to you, but there is that risk there. The other solution is, rather than doing your regulator, you can use the air guns. So that's just...
Oh, you've seen them, it's like a little nozzle.
Yeah, it's just a little nozzle.
You've got like an extra
rubber
inflator hose here.
So you can put an extra inflator hose on, or you can just detach your dry suit hose and connect it and use that to fire up.
Oh, right, okay.
And if that's easier for you, then yeah, it is an option. It reduces the free flow risk a little bit. Personally, I think practice, and then for me, there's two methods. So, like you said, oral inflation or using your dry suit.
There's another one. There's that one.
Yeah, you could, but
exhaust bubbles.
Yeah, so you can use the exhaust bubbles with the open bottom ones, and yeah, it kind of works.
But anyway, so the main ones that we would use is oral and dry suit.
Because most SMBs we have now is sealed on the bottom.
Yeah.
So that just makes them smaller, a bit more compact, easier to fit in your pocket, but also it just reduces any risk of them deflating on the surface as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the main method for that I would use is, so this is the lovely halcyon ones. So you've just got your standard pressure relief valve, and then you'll have some sort of valve like that.
So what's this one? Is that oral or just dry suit?
So this one you can do both.
See, metal, I don't like the metal ones because when I'm cold in the water, I can't, and my lips are cold, I kind of seal around the metal.
It is quite uncomfortable. The trick is to kind of put it from the side.
Put it in there.
Yeah, and use your jawbone against it, and then it is a bit more comfortable. But what I really like about these is basically you can just use my right hand. Yeah, it's disconnect your dry suit hose, connect it up, shove it on, and it'll just inflate, and away it goes, and then you just reconnect.
You're watching too much Water and White House.
Right, okay. I was thinking who that is. Yeah, so I prefer that. There is reasons why that might not work for you, so you could just use the oral inflation for it. Like I say, for me, it's just a case of take my reg out, pop that in, and away it goes.
And away.
Yeah. So when I'm side mount diving, the dry suit hose isn't long enough. I do prefer using the dry suit hose. It just depends what I'm doing, but that is quite simple. And fire up. It just depends what we've got going on. So I do really like them two methods. So this is a generic DIR zone one. So all that's in here is like a little check valve, so the air goes in and stops it coming out. The halcyon one is a bit more expensive, but that is like, I mean, you can see it's a lot chunkier, heavier metal. It's quite heavy, therefore it must be better quality.
Whatever you say.
And you do get the fancy halcyon logos everywhere. It's all about the branding. So the other kind of version of that is the X-Deep version. So this is more just a manually operated valve. So you actually have to move it.
Ah, okay, I didn't realise that was the difference between them, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the X-Deep one, basically you have to push it against your jawbone, and that'll push the valve in or inflate. That, especially if cooled, is probably more awkward for the oral inflation. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just they are easier to do. This one does have an advantage with the dry suit hose though, because you can kind of disconnect the dry suit, put the dry suit hose on, but it's not putting air in.
Until you push it a bit harder.
And then you just push, once you're ready and kind of got yourself set, then you kind of just push harder with the dry suit hose.
What's that for?
That's just to take it off to service it.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a simple spring valve in there.
Right.
So these are replaceable as well. You can buy them as second-hand parts. Like you can buy the parts to replace them yourself if you wanted. So it depends on how you do it. If you're only going to use dry suit hose, then there is a slight advantage with X Deep. Some people just don't like that push-in feature.
Right.
So at least that gets rid of it. But the other one, which is yours,
You didn't go and do my stuff?
I have. Really, your dive kit.
Box of tricks.
Box of tricks, because you get all the fancy new toys like the
I
Halo.
get this because I've got little fingers and it's easier to use. We can talk about that in another podcast.
Right, okay, yeah. Yeah, so this method is Apex's version on it.
You're making a lot of clanking noises.
Well, I've got metal and metal.
Oh, I know, but you've
Right.
got your microphone.
Mouthpiece.
Mouthpiece. It's like a camel pack.
Yeah.
Drinky bottle thing. It's just really easy to use.
So this is the one you use.
Yeah, because it's so easy. I don't need to worry about sealing around like a metal pin. You just blow it there like a trumpet.
Yeah. So this actually was used on the BCDs they used to make that had the oral inflation option. So this was like a secondary mouthpiece. It's simple. It's comfortable. The beauty of this is it's quite a thin, so it only takes one breath.
Yeah.
Especially with expansion, and that kind of takes it away. So that's kind of the thing you have to think about in terms of diving. Like, what type of diving are you doing? Are you going to be offshore, like get over risk of getting swept off by currents?
Oh, so this, you would want a bigger one than this?
Personally, yeah, it depends on the type of diving. If you're doing just like easy recreational, like shallow stuff, and you're not risk of getting dragged out to sea, then yeah, this is perfectly adequate. It's 1.2 meters, whereas you might want like a 1.8 or a wider one like the X Deep ones. But then the bigger it is, the more air you've got to put in.
But we do know that this works because this is the SMB that I used when I got blown off the fans that day, and you still found it.
Yes, true.
So it does work.
Yeah, it does work. Kind of that.
But that's another story.
Yeah, that's kind of that comfort factor. So yeah, I think that is nice. It's novel. The only downfall I've got with this is you can't use the dry suit.
Yeah, I'm not bothered about that.
So if
This
you-
works for me.
If you're happy with just doing all, then there's nothing wrong with
Especially with my crappy dry suit inflator hose that's impossible to
that.
push on.
Yes, don't worry, I've changed it.
Have you though?
Yes, I have.
Because you keep saying that and keep having the same problem.
No, I've put a new one on.
Right, okay.
It's absolutely fine. And again, that's a changeable part. I mean, if you really wanted, you could probably take that out and put one of them on if you wanted. But
I don't want to put my gear down. Don't be changing things that I like.
yeah, so that's kind of the options that is out there. It's personal preference, really.
Yeah.
Um,
And the main thing is you practice whatever method you choose. You practice how to use it, and then.
yeah, with all of them, practice.
I mean, when people are deciding which one to get, we chuck them in the tank with all the different options and then try them and see which one works best for them.
Yeah, I mean, if that is an option,
If you're local and you want to come and try them out, just come and jump in the tank at HQ and get wet, try them out, see what you think.
yeah.
And then Hal will bark every time a sausage comes up. Hal will bark at it.
So maybe just need a Hal.
Oh yeah, you could like attach him to the top.
Yeah. And you'll just bark.
Yeah, who needs a whistle when you've got Hal?
Just bark from the boat. Can you imagine? Right. I think I answered the question, didn't
I
I?
think so.
Didn't bore you too much.
There was props, so I was
props.
visually entertained.
Visually entertained.